I'm Manouk Akopyan. Thank you for tuning in, and thank you to our partners, personal injury attorney Nelson Kevorkian.
You mentioned Merab being 60, 70% in this fight and still moving through. Well, just what do you make of the entire fallout of just Tsarukyan not being able to continue? And as a coach, can you kind of take us through what a fighter is dealing with, 10 hours before a weight cut, and kind of what happened to him? Have you experienced anything like that?
Yeah, I mean, I've been in the sport for a long time, so I've seen everything and at this point in time. And it's one of those things, listen, when the weight cut happens, the weight cut is one of the worst experiences, if not the worst experience of every fighter's life. Every weight cut just is terrible. It sucks. There's just not fun, whether it's 2 pounds or 20 pounds. And your body, any little injury, any little thing that you've had, any little thing that is nagging becomes 10 times worse. So I know that, Arman, I wasn't in his camp, but, I know him, I know his coaches and his managers, and I believe him. I believe that he had an injury, and I believe that he didn't feel that he was ready to perform on that level. And it's a risk and it's a gamble on both sides. The risk is you go into that fight, which is a title fight, and you are fighting injured, and back problems they're no joke. Like sometimes you just can't even move with a back problem. It's tough. Like I never had one until a few months ago. I threw my back out for a week and I was just like, holy shit, okay. I feel bad for anybody I've made fun of that has back problems, and so it's brutal. But so you run the risk going in there, your back flares up and you lose a fight and you never get a title shot again. That is what it is. But you also, on the flip side of that, by not taking the fight, you run the risk of never getting a title shot again. Like now he's got to go over and fight somebody else, probably. I think it looks like, he's definitely going to have one, maybe two more fights before he gets back to the title. And you never know what's going to happen in your career. You never know what injuries are lurking around the corner, what family issue, what this, what that, all those things. Or, let's say he goes out and he takes the next fight and he loses. You may never see that title fight again. So it's a risk either way. And you've got to make that educated guess with your team and the people around you and your family. And you have to be okay with whatever the outcome is. And that's a tough go. It's a tough spot to be in. And some people, are, they're just built different and they think differently. And no one knows what Armand was going through except Armand. And he's a young guy and I do believe he's the next guy that can challenge Islam. He might be the only guy out there that can give him a real challenge. He's the youngest guy in the division right now in the top 10. He could be the next dude. So in my mind, I don't think he'll have a problem getting back up there. But God knows what can happen in this sport. So it's crazy. It's just a crazy thing. And sometimes your mind is the craziest thing, and it tells you sometimes that you shouldn't do this or you should do this. Maybe when you shouldn't do it, who knows, and that's for him and his team to figure that out. But it's a tough situation either way. It really is. I don't know if it's better to not lose the fight and maybe never get a title shot or have to fight back to it. Or if you go out there and you lose the fight, do you, knowing you fight injured, is the UFC going to let you get back there? It's a shit spot to be in. And, I don't envy anybody for it, but yeah, things happen. They do happen in the sport, and like I said, those weight cuts will bring those things out.
Yeah, and unfortunately for him, I mean, he has to make life and career choices at 3 o'clock in the morning, hours before a weigh-in, as
Yeah.
far as, what's the next move. And it looks like the hand he's been dealt now perhaps could be, or the hand he wants, is a 5 round fight with Oliveira. Do you think 5 rounds changes the outcome of that fight, or do you think 5 rounds will get Arm a stoppage, perhaps? By facing Oliveira with 2 extra rounds.
Well, I think in the past we've seen Oliveira kind of fade over, hard wrestling fights, and that would be the one thing that I think that they would want to exploit. And I think the longer that fight goes, the better it is for Arman. Arman's one of those guys that can go in deep waters with wrestling, with striking, with everything. He's a complete package, so I feel that the longer the fight goes and the more rounds it is, the more it sways to his advantage.